Hey guys, today we're going to learn about absolute value. So go ahead and take out your spiral notebook and title your page Absolute Value. So this is going to be our first new material. So far we've been reviewing from 6th grade math. This is our new 7th grade topic. So let's start with a definition. What is absolute value? Absolute value is the distance from 0 on a number line. Now, with that definition, distance is really important. I want you to remember that distance is always a positive number. Okay, that's going to be important as we're talking about absolute value. So remember, when you're measuring a distance of like 2 feet or 10 miles or 5 yards, it's always a positive number. We can't have negative distance. So on a number line, let's look at a couple examples. Here's 0. Say I have the number 4. The distance between 0 and 4 is 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. So the absolute value of 4, and this is what these are called absolute value bars. Let's label that. Here and here, these two bars, they're not numbers, they're taller than the numbers, okay? Absolute value bars. So this means the absolute value of 4 is 4 because it is 4 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4 from 0 on the number line. Now say I went in the negative direction, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. So say I wanted to do the absolute value of -5. What would that equal? You're going to count the spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces to 0. So the absolute value of -5 is 5. Now remember, it's a distance. So distance is always positive. So when we ask for the absolute value of something, it's always positive. Okay? So I'm just going to write yourself a little note. Read. That's how we read this. The absolute value of -5 is 5. Okay, that's how we would read that statement there. Okay, so quick note, negative signs outside the absolute value bars will remain negative. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. Let's look at an example of that. So here's example 1. I've got the absolute value of -9. Okay, because that negative is inside the absolute value bars, I'm really thinking here's 0, here's -1, -2, -3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, here's -9. I just want this distance. It's 9 spaces from 0. So the absolute value of -9 is 9. Now if I have this, where I say negative absolute value of 6, we need to think about that. This part here, the absolute value of 6, will be positive. Here's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here's 6. There's 6 spaces, right? So the absolute value of 6 is 6. But this negative is outside the absolute value bar. So it's going to stay negative. I'm going to move that negative over, and then I'm going to put my absolute value. So this one equals -6. Now that kind of looks like a division. That's a negative sign. Sorry, guys. All right, so the negative is out front. Let's make some notes in another color so it's clearer. Okay, so negative is in front of the absolute values. So it goes over and it stays in front here. Okay, let's do some try on your own so you can get comfortable with this. So go ahead and turn to the next page in your spiral. We're going to label it Toyo. Remember, try on your own. And I'm going to give you some problems to look at. So the first one is absolute value of -2. You're going to tell me what that equals. Number 2 is going to be the absolute value of 7. Number 3 is going to be the absolute value of 0. Number 4 is going to be the absolute value of -1.5. Number 5 is the absolute value of 4.92. Number 6 is negative absolute value of -1. Number 7 is absolute value of -2/5. And number 8 is negative absolute value of 1/2. So go ahead and pause the video, and I want you to take your best shot at these. And then we'll come back and look and talk about some of the intricacies of it. So pause the video, try these out. All right, hopefully you're back and you've tried all of the try on your own. So this one, the negative sign is inside the absolute value bars. So it just means here's 0, here's -1, here's -2. How many places, how much distance between -2 and 0? 2 places. So the absolute value would be 2. Here, absolute value of 7, it's between 0 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The distance is 7, so the absolute value is 7. Here, think about it. Distance from 0 to itself to 0 would be 0. So the absolute value of 0 is 0. Here, decimals and fractions don't matter. It's the same idea. It's inside the absolute value bar, so it's positive 1.5 would be the absolute value. So if you thought on a number line, here's 0. Oops, I went the wrong direction. There's -1, there's -2. -1.5 would be right here. So it's 1.5 to get back over. Okay, here, same idea. It would be 4.92. So the distance between 0 and 4.92. Here, notice this one's out front. So we're going to keep it. And then we're going to take this, the absolute value of -1. Here's 0, here's -1. It's just one jump, so it's 1. So our overall answer is -1. The absolute value of -1 is +1, but there was a negative in front, so we keep it. Okay, here, absolute value of -2/5 would just be +2/5. Okay, here, keep that one out in front, negative. And then absolute value of 1/2 is 1/2. Okay, so the big takeaways are absolute value is always a positive number. The only time you're going to get a negative answer is if there was a negative outside the absolute value bars, and you just keep it. Okay, so we're going to practice that a little bit with this absolute value maze that I gave you. There's 2 sides. You do need to do the whole thing. Okay, for this one, you do not need to show your work because it's kind of just looking at it. You're welcome to draw a number line if it helps you visualize, but you do not have to. You can look at this and decide what your answer would be. Take your time with this. Make sure that you're not letting the signs trick you up, and I will see you next time.